During this very challenging time where we had to be forced to be separate from our friends and our colleagues, I was really grateful for this Anchor app, which has allowed me to continue the podcast after almost 1 year of working on it. It's free. You simply go to anchor.fm and download the app. And there you'll find all the tools that you need to record and edit your podcast, as well as to invite people onto your podcast through the app. Anchor also distributes the podcast for you on Apple, Spotify, and many other platforms. You have absolutely nothing to do except to record your podcast. If you have an ad like this, you can also make money. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. I would recommend it for anyone who wants to get their voice out there, has something to contribute. Go for it. Anchor.fm is where you go to download the free app and to get started. Good luck with your podcast. Welcome to a new episode of the Bees and Honey podcast. Today we're speaking with artist Hart Halper, who's also known as New York Romantic. Perhaps you've been to New York and seen some of his hearts and stuff like that drawn around the city. He has an exhibition now at a gallery called Art of Our Century in the West Village, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his art. Enjoy. Hi, good morning, Hash. How are you?
Good morning, Nicolette. I'm well, and yourself?
I'm okay. It was good to see you briefly at your exhibition. Tell us about your current exhibition at Art of Our Century.
Thank you for making it. Well, right now I have a solo show of installation and paintings that is going on until February 28th.
Mm-hmm.
And the gallery is on 14th Street in the West Village, kind of Chelsea, where Chelsea and the West Village meets.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a show full of work that it's a conceptual show that ties into the work that I do in the public realm.
Yes, so tell us a little bit about that work in the public realm for people who don't know you.
Okay, so I'm a New York-based artist, and I do a lot of hearts. So I'm most well known for my chalk heart graffiti, where I go around the city drawing just simple symbols like the heart and kind of fill up whole blocks to create a landscape, to create a different atmosphere of interactive art in New York City.
Right, and that's why in the exhibition there was this pile of chalk and the crushed chalk piles of different colors, which was quite beautiful. And also people were encouraged to use the chalk themselves to create things in addition to what you have hanging on the wall.
We encourage certain artists that stop by for sure, but it wasn't a free-for-all for drawing on the walls for this show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I did have a chalk installation in the middle, sculpture piece of all partially used pieces of chalk that I had taken from my drawing on the streets. So each piece of chalk, maybe there was 1,000 in that pile, represents at least 5 to 10 hearts drawn on the street that they had been used for.
Okay. That part I didn't really get at the time, so I'm glad you explained it. And how did you get the name New York Romantic?
New York Romantic. I guess I was on Instagram and I was thinking about the hearts, and one of my friends, a local wine store owner in the neighborhood, his son likes art, so he said, "Can he draw with you?" So I said, "Sure." And then I was drawing concentric hearts, and his son said, "Hey, that looks like a leaf." So I looked up where the heart originated in art, and it was from a 13th or 12th century gold relief painting. I forget at the moment the artist, where a man was holding what looked like a leaf-shaped heart in his hand to his betrothed.
Ah,
So, as far as the romantic aspect of art and the romantic art movement in the 18th century, of painting landscapes, painting nature, painting trees, painting leaves, painting portraits. So my art show is about. So I just thought it would be a good Instagram handle, and I was tagging it around the city as well a little bit, and so it became kind of tying it into the romantic art movement.
yes, it stuck. And at the time the New York Times featured you, you had already been using that name for a while. Tell us about that article and what it said about you and your art.
Well, I felt like the Times, they were using it to. I mean, it was a good article, and you know, press is good, and it's just about awareness of the topic as well. But I think it kind of downplayed it a little bit, and it was kind of like, hey, this is a Valentine's artist who draws hearts for Valentine's Day, which is, I've graffitied 100,000 hearts at that point on the city walls. So to be, it kind of categorized me and put me into a little bit of a category. But I also, when you reach a certain level of like the New York Times and it hit the AP press, then I got picked up by Brazilian news and a Russian news broadcast that got broadcast to 500 plus million people worldwide.
Wow, yeah. So
So,
it did work out somehow, even though it wasn't 100% accurate.
well, it's like life. Not everything is exactly as you see it's going to happen, but things work out for a certain reason.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. And you've done these tags in the city and now they're on canvas. Would you say the message is the same or is it slightly different to fit the gallery context now?
Well, for me, it's a connection between economics. Like, um, Instagram has interesting things in like the same way of an Instagram post. Like, you might not make a sale, but you might make. Ewan McGregor, who I don't even think has Instagram anymore, but he did, and he posted 5 posts of me doing my work, like a whole montage.
Wow.
And from that, uh, one of the economic graduate school students from Paris, from the second top economic school in Europe,
Hmm.
contacted me because they wanted to do a senior thesis or include me and my art as a part of their senior thesis on the connection between culture and creativity and economics.
Hmm.
And they were interviewing the Met Costume Gala and a couple other aspects of New York City at that point. Of this was a few years ago, so for
Hmm.
me, as having a show in a gallery is also further connecting that economic connection to uplifting romantic imagery. As some of my tags are on the wall, and some of the paintings are more. I mean, takes more time, so they're more in a fine art rather than in a graffiti sense.
Right. And this Ewan McGregor is like the actor from Clockwork Orange, right?
No, Ewan McGregor is from Star Wars and
Oh,
Train
okay.
Spotting,
Okay, okay.
and he's like he's been in a lot. He was Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Star Wars trilogy, but
Okay, that's good
I mean,
to know.
he's just like an example for me. I was talking to someone, and they just didn't tag me or something online, and they said, well, how was I supposed to know it's yours? Your art or your graffiti or my graffiti hearts, because there's been a lot of copycats and
Hmm.
along the way. And I just said, I didn't even explain it to that person at the moment, but if you put out your name and your like email or your Instagram, it's less likely that that message is going to go out to the world, because people are, celebrities have lots of artist friends. People who have millions of Instagram followers they
Hmm.
have a lot of artist friends. So it's like for them to pick and choose who they're going to promote online.
Yeah,
It's better the message just went out. So I put out the message without like a phone number or where to contact me, to
yeah.
be extreme.
Would you call yourself a street artist? I mean, describe your whole body of work, how you started out in New York or wherever you started out.
I was born in Philadelphia, and
Mhm.
I moved to New York for schooling, and I was always coming here as a child. My grandparents are from New York, and my mother's side, and I started off curating as well. So I was doing fine art. I was curating. I wrote art articles for Frank 151 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be a curator, to be an artist, to be uh, a writer, I call it like a slash. So you might find different years of my like 1 year I'm curating more shows, and then sometimes I'm working more on my solo work.
Right.
And so I mean, as a street artist, people call me a street artist, and I would say like definitely my landscape, chalk, abstract work is for sure street art. And I had a physicist from Spain come to New York City, and we took a art walk, and he assured me he was dressed a little bit more casually than he is in Spain for his physicist community. He said they're very like suits and ties, and he was like a little more artistically dressed. But he looked at my art and he said, "Oh, that's the universe, and that color is that oxygen, and that is hydrogen, and that is neon, and it's a picture of outer space." So it depends on how somebody sees your art as an
Yeah.
abstraction. So street art,
Yes.
I would say graffiti. The term graffiti comes from uh,
Mm-hmm.
writing. I guess it would be writing words on a
Mm-hmm.
wall. So I've definitely been known to do that as graffiti, and I've had a history of fine art throughout, the last decade in New York, showing at different galleries like White Box and DNA Gallery and
Mm-hmm.
others. So, kind of like a mix.
Yes. Well, I'm glad I ran into this New York City uh, exhibition just around Valentine's to remind me that this idea of New York still exists. I know New York City can sometimes be rough on artists who are not part of the mainstream market. How have things been for you the past few years before the pandemic and, even now during the pandemic?
Well, I mean, for me as a artist for the last, I would say, I would give it a 7 year stretch of
Mm-hmm.
the what I've been focused on, which is doing the graffiti hearts.
Mm-hmm.
When you're working with something that is not part of, is against the status quo,
Mm-hmm.
then you're fighting an uphill battle. And
Mm-hmm.
for me to draw a heart and have people look at me and go, "What's that?" or curse me off or laugh at me, or that was pretty much of the norm 7 years ago. And now, 7 years later, you're going to see hearts in your advertising. You're going to see hearts on your clothing. You're going to see lots of different heart artists in different forms, whether just painting hearts or just including a heart within their paintings itself as like a notes. It's much more accepted. So there's definitely this nature, as well as when everything's going well, you take whatever is around you for granted. So there's a great Passenger song where this artist musician from Ireland was just playing this song on the street, and you only know you love her when you let her go.
Hmm.
And he wrote that song, he played on the street, and then eventually it hit 1 billion people on YouTube. And Passenger's now like more of a well-known artist. But that idea of like you take for granted what's around you. So when everything's going well, and I mean, the economic school from Europe obviously thought my art had a lot of relationship to do with how well New York downtown was doing economically at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Other people around are more likely to just be like, "Oh, it's just, it's not the art." Whether it be my art or whether it be the galleries in Chelsea or the Lower East Side. And
Right.
and for me as an artist, like it's I'm in a position where as times get a little bit more tough, obviously with the what's going on in the 2020,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm definitely appreciated what I do more, because it's a lot more obvious.
Yes, yes. And what do you see yourself doing in the near future? What are your plans after this exhibition?
I mean, the aspect of all like the sales from my show right now go back into me buying more chalk and going and drawing more hearts around the Lower East Side and East Village and downtown New York. And generally, at least I know what I'm doing is that I'm drawing hearts.
Right. All right. Well, is there anything else you wanted to add before we end? I didn't really have much else to ask you, I don't think.
Uh, I would just say, thank God and to my family and many miracles and friends along the way to keep an artist career. I think in any city is a difficult uphill journey to be
Mm-hmm.
an artist, because just to be an artist is against the status quo. And and
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
if you're selling, if like I mean, obviously, so I'd just like to say check out my show at Art of Our Century. It's running till the
Mm-hmm.
28th. The
Mm-hmm.
gallery is open Thursday 2 p.m. to Thursday to Sunday, 2 p.m. to
Mm-hmm.
6 p.m. And we will have a
Yes.
closing reception on the 28th. So if you
Okay,
so
cool.
definitely, like, the idea of the heart is, I would just say, courage, love. It doesn't always have to be tied to a day. It's a symbol that everybody's got a heart.
Yes. Okay, that sounds very cool, and I will share this as well as I can over the next few days. Hopefully, some people will show up
All right,
again.
thank you, Nicolette.
Okay,
I
take care.
appreciate it.
Have a good evening. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this episode listening to Hart Halper, a New York romantic. I hope he inspired you to have a beautiful and fun loving day. Bye.